Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. This is News Channel Nebraska. My name is Eric McKay. Let's take a look at our top stories today. Beginning with flood recovery, continuing in central Texas, this is people in several other states grapple with new rounds of severe weather. Some are facing extreme heat and even wildfires, like the blaze that destroyed that iconic lodge in Arizona on the north rim of the Grand Canyon. Amy Kiley has more.
Tens of millions of Americans are coping with severe weather or its aftermath today. Whoa. The Northeast is recovering from overnight floods. New Jersey is under a state of emergency declaration. New York is dealing with subway station flood damage that also affected some train cars. This man seems okay after a rescue in the suburbs, while these drivers chose to turn around in the Bronx. The FAA warns of air travel impacts in New York, Washington, and Boston. In southern Pennsylvania, officials report a number of water rescues. They say Lancaster County got 7 inches of rain in less than 5 hours yesterday. Meteorologists say Maryland and D.C. were in the core threat area overnight. Meanwhile, near the Grand Canyon,
it's just really devastating.
A historic lodge is in ashes due to a rapidly spreading wildfire.
It's taking a big chunk of the park and taking it offline for at least a couple of years.
In Utah, the Monroe fire is burning.
That's a big concern, protecting the structures as we can and keeping the public safe.
And in Central Texas, recovery efforts continue after floods killed more than 100 people.
We have seen the best of humanity. We truly see God's hand at work.
Amy Kiley reporting, News Channel Nebraska.
More flood recovery news. Dozens of puppies rescued from those devastating Texas floods made their way through Nebraska Monday. This video was taken at the airport in Nebraska City. The group Paws Chicago says they're taking urgent action to help the shelters in Texas overwhelmed by the flooding. The dogs flown to Nebraska City Municipal Airport, then transferred to vans to finish their trek to Illinois. The nonprofit says they're taking in 30 dogs from the Concho Valley Paws Shelter in San Angelo, Texas. Closer to home, the brothers involved in a standoff and eventual murder-suicide in North Platte this weekend have been identified by the State Patrol. Law enforcement say they were called to the scene of a man barricaded inside a home in North Platte. Authorities say 39-year-old James Kemp had called them to say he'd already shot and killed his brother, Christopher. Officials said they then found out that James had his 11-year-old son inside the house. After several hours, they were able to convince James to release his son. Soon after, a gunshot was heard. The State Patrol says they found 2 men dead inside. A grand jury will be conducted to investigate, since there was the presence of law enforcement at the time of the second gunshot. A central Nebraska man will be sentenced next month in a child sex crime case. 25-year-old Harold Hernandez Valladares was convicted of misdemeanor sexual assault. He was arrested after authorities say he sexually assaulted a 14-year-old girl in January. Grand Island police said he met the teen at a convenience store, told police the teen did that she was sexually assaulted at a nearby park. Valladares now faces up to a year in jail when he's sentenced on August 19th. Well, it appears a new VA hospital is coming to Nebraska. Construction of a new hospital in Omaha has been placed on the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs 5-year development plan. That places the project on a much more certain path to construction. It's something Nebraska's congressional delegation has pushed for, most recently last month during a Senate hearing with VA Secretary Doug Collins. Collins said the federal government needs to find a way to grease the wheels on major projects like the VA hospital in order to keep costs down.
After a while, you've now run a project that should take 24 months. You've run it into almost 8 to 10 years, Louisville being an example and others being an example of how long this can get strung out. And also, you've increased the cost. So I'm glad we're funding it, but we need to look at more of a front-end funding model, especially if we're going to replace whole hospitals.
The current VA Medical Center has been at its location at 41st and Woolworth for 75 years. No word on a potential new location or a price tag, but both Senator Deb Fischer and U.S. Representative Don Bacon have proposed the Chip In for Veterans Act. That would allow local communities to help with planning and construction of VA health facilities. It's passed the House and is awaiting passage in the Senate. A big change is coming to how students and parents can borrow federal money to help pay for college. Under the president's budget bill recently signed into law, there will be limits on borrowing for federal student loans and a reduction in the number of repayment options that can be chosen. Jen Sullivan explains the changes and your options to finance higher education.
The average cost of college tuition and fees at public institutions has risen about 141% over the last 20 years. Right now, nearly 43 million people have federal student loan debt, according to the U.S. government. If you're taking out a loan to pay for college, there's some big changes for students and parents.
You're not going to be able to borrow as much as you could in the past.
Michelle Singletary is a personal finance columnist at the Washington Post. She says President Donald Trump's Big Beautiful Bill overhauls borrowing for families. Under the Parent Plus program, parents will be able to borrow only $20,000 per year or $65,000 total per undergraduate student in federal loans.
I've dealt with a lot of students and parents who have borrowed way too much for college.
Under the Repayment Assistance Plan, borrowers who take out loans after July 1st of 2026 will be allowed to pay based on income.
There's sort of a new standard payment, which will give people some people longer to pay the loans, which means their monthly payments will be lower, but you're going to pay more in interest.
Borrowers whose federal student loan interest payments were halted under the Biden administration will now have to pay that interest beginning August 1st.
That break is ending, and you need to get in contact with your loan servicer as soon as possible.
There are other ways to get financial help besides federal loans. Some of those options include scholarships, grants, and work-study jobs. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
A central Nebraska school district says they've been taken for a seven-figure sum by scammers. Broken Bow Public School said in a statement Monday they sent a $1.8 million payment to who they thought was a contractor, but was a scammer instead. School officials said in a news release that it was through a phishing email with payment instructions for a voter-approved bond construction and appeared to come from a trusted vendor. The district says they've recovered about $700,000 so far. They're trying to get the rest back through insurance. School officials say taxpayers should not see any effect. A new era began for Norfolk Public Schools on Monday. The Norfolk Public School Board held their first meeting with interim superintendent Bill McAllister. He took over at the beginning of July after previous superintendent Dr. Jamie Jo Thompson left to take a similar job in Rapid City, South Dakota. McAllister says his goal for the next year is to set up the next permanent superintendent for success by increasing engagement in the district.
And I want all students to be involved in activities of all kind, and because we know when students are involved, GPAs go up, and that's where relationships are formed, and overall we just would like to have a relationship-based education.
McAllister comes to Norfolk after having been superintendent in the West Point Beamer and West Holt districts. Most recently served as interim assistant superintendent in South Sioux City. The Norfolk Public School Board plans to name a permanent replacement to begin the 2026-27 school year. A new, more modern way of gaining entry to games and activities coming to Beatrice Public Schools. During his weekly report at the Beatrice School Board meeting Monday, Superintendent Jason Alexander said the school will begin accepting credit cards at sporting events. Alexander said the efforts have been spearheaded by new activities director Cale Kaiser, who's working with a company called Bound to get machines ready for the upcoming fall sports season.
He's working on that right now, getting it all in place. Also looking at the middle school using this as well. So it'll be a change. There may be some hurdles that we experience as with any change, but he's excited about it. I know that it should make ticket taking easier and also make our auditors happier.
Alexander said the new change will also be implemented with concessions, which will also begin accepting card payments. And a popular museum and campground in central Nebraska making some substantial upgrades. Mary Waddle has more on the process.
The Pioneer Village campground is under construction and is adding 25 new sites. Pioneer Village is a museum and attraction started by Harold Warp back in 1953. It showcases antique cars, historic buildings, and has a multitude of vintage items. A recent rise in popularity is allowing the campground to grow. After the upgrades, it will be double the current size. Board member Al Lux is excited for the additional traffic the extension will offer.
I think it'll help increase people through the front door, because people are going to come here and camp, and they might not be coming here to go to the museum. They see it, hey, wow, look at this museum that's been here since 1953. Let's go check it out. And I think the museum will get people to stay an extra day or two, and then they're telling their camp friends, and pretty soon we've got groups coming in. And
14 of the sites will include pull-throughs, and 11 will be back-in sites. Concrete will be poured to create 70-foot deep pads. Each site will also include sewer, water, and 50-amp electrical hookups. Lux hopes the project will be completed sometime in September for campers to park on a pad.
And you can stay up to date with the very latest by following us online. Head to newschannelnebraska.com and click on the News tab there. You can also follow us on X, like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. This is News Channel Nebraska.